What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another fantasy football draft strategy video. This one's going to be early round draft strategy. There's going to be 3 videos we'll be making: early rounds, middle rounds, and late rounds, just how the strategy changes. Early rounds. First one, skill position heavy. Don't take your quarterbacks here, obviously not defense or kicker. You need to go skill position. I don't recommend taking Gronk or Reed this year. I'll make a video about that. But basically, don't reach and skill position heavy. You got to do these tips. You can't reach for a player in the first, second, and third rounds. If someone's ranked 40th and you have them ranked 20th, or even say someone's ranked 40th and you have them ranked like 15th, you can't be reaching for them in the second round. Your top 2 round picks are so valuable that you can't be wrong. And generally speaking, the guys that are ranked up there are the safest options and are generally the highest chance of being worth it in picks. So, I did some data. What makes a quality pick? I said that in the end of the year, if a wide receiver running back finished in the top 20, quarterback finished in the top 10, or tight end in the top 5, and that's for their respective categories, I said that was a quality pick. So, whether that was in the first round, running back was 19th, quality pick. Whether it was the 10th round, a wide receiver was 19th, quality pick. Now, obviously, the pick could have been better because if you're in the first round, you don't really want the 20th best, but I did this just to show how in each round there's less and less talent. And that's obvious if you think about it. There's less and less talent for every round. And I'm going to show a chart here right now. But that just shows you can't be reaching for people. So, in the first round, 60% were quality picks last year. Second round, 70%. Third round dropped all the way to 15%. And then as you see, it goes 50, 40, 30. It kind of goes down from there. So if you're sitting in the second round, you can't be reaching for someone who on average goes in the 5th round. Because on average, they're not going to pan out as well or as often. Okay? You can't be reaching for the guys. Generally, skill position is what you want to do. I've made that quarterback video earlier about when you should be taking them. It's so deep this year. Like, you can take a quarterback in like the 10th round, and he's going to do just fine for you. Maybe like 2 points less than an elite guy will get. But even when we thought last year, like Luck and Rodgers, we thought they were elite guys, and they weren't. You know, they were average. Rodgers was basically average, and Luck was terrible. So when you think a guy's super safe, honestly, year to year, they're really not. I'm perfectly fine not taking quarterback until like the 12th and 13th rounds. Just taking like, at that point, you can probably get like Rivers and Romo. So if you can get Rivers and Romo there, instead of taking Rodgers in the 3rd, and using your 3rd round pick on a guy who could be going in the 3rd round, Brandon Marshall maybe in the 3rd round, I'd much rather have him. He's a higher level above his replacement than the quarterbacks are. But basically, in the early rounds, you need to kill it. Now, you might be looking at this and say, well, that's just 2015. Maybe it changes. It doesn't. I've done a few years. I'm only going to show you 2014, but it's the same exact thing. 2014, 90% of first-round picks end up being quality picks. Then it goes down to about 65, then 35, then 15. There's a drastic drop-off. So if you're sitting in the 2nd round, you need to think to yourself, I can't reach for a guy 1 or 2 rounds ahead of where he is at this point. You can do that. I'm going to be making the video. You can do that in the middle and late rounds. You can reach. It's perfectly okay. But in the first couple rounds, you cannot reach. I can't emphasize that enough. Don't reach. Next thing, basically, is the takeaways here. Obviously, I said the first 2. You can't take too many injury risk players. Let's say your first-round guy, I don't know, Le'Veon Bell. He's never actually played a full season. You have to realize that. So if you take Le'Veon, you can't go in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounds taking guys that are all injury-prone or injury risks. You can't do that. Your whole team, it has to be a mixture. Late, take all the injury players you want. Middle rounds, maybe not take all of them, but I'm going to do that in the late round videos. The late round, take whoever you want. If super upside, I mean, that's what you're shooting for late. You're obviously shooting for upside early, but you can't be taking the guys that have never played a full season, 1st, 2nd, 3rd round picks. Because what if they get hurt like they've done every single year? It's almost likely that they're going to get hurt. You need a mixture of steady upside, steady production, and upside. So you need some guys that, like Duke Johnson and Ezekiel Elliott. they've got a lot of upside, but they do have downside and they don't really have steady production because we haven't really seen it. So if you pair a guy with like Antonio Brown and Ezekiel Elliott, you have the upside and you have the steady production, so you're fine. In the third round of PPR, if you take Julian Edelman, that's steady production, so your other picks can be pure upside. But you have to have a mixture of these. You can't just take all steady, because then every week you're going to score like 80 or 90, and that's not going to win you a championship. You need those guys that can go off, but you can't have all guys that go off, or else you have an imbalance in your team. So what I suggest doing, I love doing the RB0 strategy. If you want to take your first 4 picks at wide receiver, perfectly fine with that. If that's like one flex and you have 3 wide receivers in your league, not if you only have 2 spots. But if you have 3 spots where you're allowed to put a wide receiver, I'm perfectly fine. Wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, running back. They don't get replaced as much. Though the wide receivers, they don't generally. You're not an AJ Green. You're now the number 2 wide receiver this year. But if you're Jeremy Hill or Giovanni Bernard, you do. Like every single year, the top guys get replaced. Guy this year, Freeman, I don't think he's going to be the starter by the end of the year. At least at some point, Coleman might start. You look at all of these guys, and it's possible, it's almost likely that someone's going to take over. So I never take a running back in my first pick, unless maybe the top guy I've ranked there at like 12, and I'm picking like 12, 13. Maybe I'll do that. But I love taking 3 wide receivers to start. If you want to take a running back a little earlier, my next suggestion would be wide receiver, running back, wide receiver. Again, that's fine. But these next 2, I don't particularly like. I don't like taking a running back too early. But if you're going to do these next 2 that I've shown, make sure if you take a running back in the second, you're taking 2 wide receivers after that. And if you're taking a running back in the second, definitely you have to take a wide receiver in the third. You can't start off your team with 2 of your first 3 picks being running backs, because the odds are one of them is going to be a bust. Then you're not having elite wide receivers. One of them might be meh. It's just not worth it. So that's the end of the video. Again, just don't reach in the first part of the rounds. The first probably 5 rounds, I'd say, don't reach for anyone. Take guys that are on average going there that you really think have production. You can't have all upside. You have to have steady production and upside. Don't take too many running backs early because they are injury prone. You want to take those guys later. And if you do these, you're going to do good in your drafts. Alright, if you watched this far, at least somewhat liked it, leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what I should do differently, and thanks for watching.